Ibrahim Traoré, the young captain who shook Burkina Faso, a real story. What would you do if, at just 34 years old, you were handed a country drowning in chaos, terrorism, and despair? For Ibrahim Traoré, this wasn't a hypothetical question. It was his reality. On a fateful day in September 2022, he stepped into power, not as a politician, but as a soldier determined to rewrite the destiny of Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré's journey is not just the story of a man. It's the story of a nation on the brink of collapse and the courage it takes to pull it back from the edge. Born into a world of discipline and service, Traoré spent years honing his skills in the military, learning the art of leadership and strategy. But nothing could have prepared him for the storm that Burkina Faso was facing. Jihadist groups wreaking havoc, innocent lives lost daily, and a government struggling to maintain order. In September 2022, Traoré led a coup that ousted the transitional government, stepping into the spotlight not for glory, but out of necessity. He stood before the people of Burkina Faso, promising them hope in a time of darkness. "We will reclaim our land, our peace, and our future," he declared, a bold statement for a young leader in a nation teetering on the edge of survival. But the road ahead is anything but easy. International pressure mounts, sanctions loom, and internal challenges like resource shortages and political instability threaten to derail his mission. Yet, Ibrahim Traoré remains undeterred, driven by a vision of a safer, stronger Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré's rise to power was not just a coup. It was a response to the deep frustration felt by millions of Burkinabés who had grown tired of seeing their country torn apart by violence. When he took control, many doubted whether a young military officer could handle the immense responsibility of leading a nation grappling with one of the worst security crises in its history. But Traoré had something that set him apart, a clear sense of purpose and an unwavering belief in the potential of his people. From the very beginning, Traoré made it clear that his priority was security. Burkina Faso had become a battleground for jihadist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, with attacks spreading across the northern and eastern regions. Entire villages were displaced, schools were shut down, and farmers abandoned their fields out of fear. In response, Traoré launched aggressive military operations, mobilizing troops and resources to combat these groups head-on. His approach was direct, no negotiations, no compromises. He declared war on terrorism, vowing to reclaim every inch of Burkina Faso's territory. But military action alone wasn't enough. Traoré understood that true stability could only come through unity and trust. He began reaching out to local communities, listening to their concerns, and involving them in efforts to restore peace. In speeches broadcast nationwide, he urged citizens to stand together, reminding them that our strength lies in our unity. These words resonated deeply with a population that had long felt abandoned by those in power. For the first time in years, many Burkinabés began to feel a glimmer of hope. However, Traoré's journey has been far from smooth. The international community has been critical of his takeover, labeling it undemocratic and imposing sanctions that have further strained Burkina Faso's struggling economy. Critics argue that his methods are too authoritarian, while supporters insist that desperate times call for desperate measures. Despite the backlash, Traoré has remained steadfast, often saying that he would rather face condemnation abroad than allow his country to descend further into chaos. One of the most remarkable aspects of Traoré's leadership is his ability to connect with the youth of Burkina Faso. At just 34 years old, he represents a new generation of Africans who are unwilling to accept the failures of the past. Young people see him as a symbol of change, a leader who understands their struggles and aspirations. Social media has played a significant role in amplifying his message, with hashtags like #TraoréForChange trending across platforms. Videos of his speeches, filled with passion and conviction, have gone viral, inspiring not only Burkinabés but also people across Africa and beyond. Yet, even with all this progress, the challenges remain daunting. Jihadist groups continue to pose a serious threat, launching deadly attacks that test the resolve of Traoré's government. Economic hardships persist, with inflation soaring and basic necessities becoming increasingly unaffordable for ordinary citizens. And then there's the question of what comes next. Will Traoré be able to transition Burkina Faso back to civilian rule, or will his leadership pave the way for a new era of military governance? As the sun sets over Ouagadougou, the capital city, one can't help but wonder, is Ibrahim Traoré the hero Burkina Faso needs, or is he walking a fine line between savior and strongman? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. He has already left an indelible mark on the history of his nation. Ibrahim Traoré's leadership is a paradox, a blend of decisive action and controversial choices. On one hand, his aggressive military campaigns have yielded some successes, reclaiming territories once lost to jihadist groups and restoring a semblance of order in certain regions. On the other hand, his methods have raised eyebrows both domestically and internationally. Critics accuse him of sidelining democratic principles in favor of authoritarian control, while supporters argue that extraordinary times demand extraordinary measures. One of the most debated aspects of Traoré's tenure is his relationship with Russia. In recent months, Burkina Faso has sought closer ties with Moscow, reportedly receiving military assistance and training from Russian mercenaries, including the Wagner Group. While this move has bolstered Burkina Faso's fight against terrorism, it has also drawn condemnation from Western nations, who view it as a shift away from traditional alliances. For Traoré, however, the decision seems pragmatic. "We will take help wherever we can find it," he has said, emphasizing that his primary goal is to protect his people, regardless of geopolitical consequences. Back home, the mood is mixed. In rural areas where jihadist attacks were once rampant, villagers express cautious optimism. "At least now we feel safer," says one farmer from the northern region, referring to the increased presence of government forces. But in urban centers like Ouagadougou, intellectuals and activists worry about the erosion of civil liberties. Protests against the junta have been met with swift crackdowns, raising concerns about freedom of speech and assembly. Traoré defends these actions as necessary to maintain stability, but the question lingers: at what cost? Despite these challenges, Traoré's influence extends beyond Burkina Faso's borders. His rise to power reflects a growing trend across West Africa, where military coups have become alarmingly common in recent years. Mali, Guinea, and Niger have all seen similar upheavals, signaling a broader crisis of governance in the region. Some analysts warn that this could lead to a dangerous cycle of instability, while others see it as a desperate attempt by populations to demand accountability and change. Either way, Traoré finds himself at the center of a regional reckoning, one that could shape the future of democracy and security in Africa. Amidst all the chaos, there are moments of hope. Traoré has launched initiatives aimed at revitalizing Burkina Faso's economy, focusing on agriculture, education, and infrastructure. He understands that without economic recovery, no amount of military success can ensure long-term stability. Schools that were closed due to violence are slowly reopening, and farmers are returning to their fields, encouraged by government programs providing seeds and equipment. These small victories may not make headlines, but they matter deeply to the millions of Burkinabés striving for a better life. And yet, the shadow of uncertainty looms large. Can Ibrahim Traoré deliver on his promises? Or will the weight of expectations crush him? Will Burkina Faso emerge stronger under his leadership? Or will it succumb to the same cycles of violence and poverty that have plagued it for decades? The answers to these questions lie not just in Traoré's hands, but also in the collective will of the Burkinabe people. Behind the stern face of a military leader lies a man burdened by the enormity of his task. Ibrahim Traoré is no stranger to sacrifice. He has spent most of his adult life serving his country, often at great personal cost. Friends and colleagues describe him as disciplined, pragmatic, and deeply committed to the ideals of justice and equality. But even the strongest leaders have moments of doubt, and Traoré is no exception. In private conversations, he has admitted to grappling with the immense pressure of leading a nation on the brink of collapse. "Every decision I make affects millions of lives," he once confided. "That's a responsibility I don't take lightly." Traoré's vision for Burkina Faso is ambitious, a nation free from terrorism, where every citizen has access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. He dreams of a future where Burkina Faso is known not for its struggles, but for its resilience and innovation. To achieve this, he has outlined a multi-year plan focused on security, development, and governance. However, turning these plans into reality requires more than just political will. It demands resources, cooperation, and time, all of which are in short supply. One of the most poignant aspects of Traoré's leadership is his connection to the ordinary people of Burkina Faso. Unlike many politicians who remain distant from the masses, Traoré makes a conscious effort to engage with citizens directly. Whether it's visiting displaced families in refugee camps or addressing crowds in bustling markets, he listens to their stories and shares in their pain. "I am one of you," he often says during public appearances. "We are in this fight together." These moments of vulnerability humanize him, earning him both admiration and scrutiny. But leading a nation in crisis takes a toll, not just on the leader but on those around him. Traoré's family life remains largely private, but close associates reveal that balancing his role as a husband, father, and national figurehead is an ongoing challenge. His wife, who prefers to stay out of the spotlight, reportedly plays a crucial role in grounding him, reminding him of the values they hold dear. For Traoré, these personal anchors are essential. They remind him why he chose this path in the first place. As the months pass, the world watches closely to see whether Traoré can live up to his promises. Early signs are mixed. While military operations have pushed jihadist groups out of key areas, the threat remains persistent. Economic reforms are underway, but progress is slow, hampered by sanctions and limited international support. And yet, amidst the chaos, there are glimmers of hope. Communities are beginning to rebuild. Young entrepreneurs are starting businesses despite the odds, and cultural festivals, once canceled due to fear, are making a comeback. For Ibrahim Traoré, the journey is far from over. Every day brings new challenges, new decisions, and new opportunities to shape the destiny of his nation. But no matter what happens next, one thing is clear. He has ignited a spark in Burkina Faso, a spark of courage, determination, and belief in a better tomorrow. As Ibrahim Traoré's leadership unfolds, it becomes increasingly clear that his story is not just about one man. It's about an entire nation striving to rise above its struggles. His rise to power was unconventional, born out of necessity rather than ambition. Yet, in less than 2 years, he has managed to redefine what it means to lead in times of crisis. For many Burkinabés, Traoré represents hope, a beacon of light in a dark and uncertain world. For others, he remains a controversial figure, whose methods raise questions about the balance between security and freedom. One cannot discuss Traoré's legacy without acknowledging the sacrifices made along the way. Soldiers under his command have fought valiantly against jihadist groups, often paying the ultimate price. Civilians too have endured immense hardships, yet they continue to rally behind their leader, believing that change is possible. In speeches delivered to grieving families and weary troops, Traoré has repeatedly vowed never to abandon his people. "We are in this together," he declares, "and together we will prevail." But perhaps the most enduring aspect of Traoré's tenure is the spirit of resilience he has inspired. Across Burkina Faso, communities are coming together to rebuild what was lost. Farmers are tilling their fields once more, teachers are returning to classrooms, and artists are using their craft to tell stories of survival and strength. These small acts of defiance against despair are a testament to the unyielding will of the Burkinabe people, and to the vision of a leader who dared to dream of a brighter future. Still, the road ahead remains fraught with uncertainty. Jihadist groups continue to pose a threat, testing the resolve of Traoré's government. Economic recovery is slow, hindered by sanctions and global inflation. And the question of political transition looms large. Will Traoré step aside when stability returns, or will he seek to consolidate power further? These unanswered questions linger in the minds of both supporters and critics alike. Despite these challenges, there is a growing sense that something fundamental has shifted in Burkina Faso. The people, once resigned to their fate, now believe that they have the power to shape their destiny. And at the center of this transformation stands Ibrahim Traoré, a man who took on the impossible task of leading a nation through its darkest hour. Whether history will judge him as a hero or a flawed leader remains to be seen. But for now, his name is etched into the hearts of millions who see him as a symbol of courage and change. Whether history will judge him as a hero or a flawed leader remains to be seen. But for now, his name is etched into the hearts of millions who see him as a symbol of courage and change. The story of Ibrahim Traoré is far from over, but its lessons are already clear. In a world where leaders often prioritize power over purpose, Traoré stands apart. A man who stepped into the unknown not for personal gain, but out of a deep sense of duty to his people. His rise from a military officer to the leader of a nation in turmoil is a testament to the unpredictable nature of history, where ordinary individuals are called upon to do extraordinary things. Burkina Faso today is still a work in progress. The scars of violence and instability run deep, and the road to recovery will be long and arduous. Yet, there is a quiet determination in the air, a belief that even the most daunting challenges can be overcome with unity and perseverance. For the first time in years, children are playing in village squares without fear, farmers are sowing seeds with hope, and young men and women are dreaming of futures beyond conflict. These small victories may seem insignificant to outsiders, but for the people of Burkina Faso, they are monumental. As for Traoré himself, he remains an enigma, a leader whose flaws make him human, yet whose vision makes him extraordinary. He has faced criticism, doubt, and immense pressure, yet he continues to push forward, driven by the conviction that his country deserves better. "I didn't choose this path," he once said in a rare moment of introspection. "But if I must walk it, then I will do so with everything I have." The true measure of Ibrahim Traoré's legacy will only become apparent in the years to come. Will Burkina Faso emerge stronger under his leadership, setting an example for other nations grappling with similar crises? Or will the weight of expectations prove too heavy, leaving behind a story of unfulfilled potential? Only time will answer these questions. But one thing is certain. Whether he succeeds or stumbles, Traoré has ignited a flame in Burkina Faso, a flame that refuses to be extinguished. And so, as the sun rises over the dusty plains of Burkina Faso, casting light on fields once ravaged by war, the people look to the future with cautious optimism. They know the journey ahead will not be easy, but they also know this: courage is contagious, and change begins with those brave enough to try. Ibrahim Traoré may not have all the answers, but he has given his people something far more valuable: the belief that they can find them together.